Here's the report from the poultry aisle. We examined the chicken brands and production practices highlighted in this investigation and found that the biggest difference isn't always the logo on the front. It's what happened to the chicken before it reached the package. How was it cooled? Was water retained? Was anything added? What does free range actually mean? What does no antibiotics ever tell you? And what doesn't it tell you? And what happens when you follow the corporate history beyond the grocery shelf? 7 names and categories deserve closer scrutiny. Then 3 alternatives stand out for consumers who want more transparency around processing and production. This isn't a report about declaring every conventional chicken product dangerous. It's about separating documented facts from assumptions, public records, USDA guidance, CDC investigations, federal enforcement records, published research, and current company information give us a much clearer picture than the front of a package ever could. If you want independent consumer reports like this, subscribe now. And before we begin, we've also created What's Really in Your Cart, our grocery investigation guide covering more than 100 brands across 15 categories, with brands rated buy, caution, or avoid, and better alternatives identified. It's linked in the description. Now here's the report. Report finding number 7, private label chicken. The first category is the one with the least obvious identity, private label. Great value is one recognizable example, but the same principle applies to supermarket brands across the country. When consumers see a store-brand chicken package, the immediate assumption is usually simple. It's cheaper, it's chicken. Therefore, the cheaper product is basically the same thing as the branded product next to it. That assumption is too simplistic. The first issue is supply chain visibility. Private label products can be sourced from different suppliers and facilities depending on the retailer and product. That doesn't mean anything is wrong. It means the store logo isn't a complete description of the production chain. The second issue is meat quality. Modern broiler chickens have been studied extensively because rapid growth and breast muscle development are associated with conditions including white striping and woody breast. Peer-reviewed research describes these as breast muscle myopathies affecting fast-growing broiler chickens and notes their effects on meat quality. This is something shoppers can actually see: white lines, unusual firmness, a breast that doesn't behave like the chicken you remember. If you see severe striping, that doesn't mean you need to throw the chicken away. It means you've encountered a quality issue researchers have been studying. And that distinction matters. The report is not saying white striping equals poison. It doesn't. The report is saying the physical characteristics of modern chicken breast meat are not always what consumers assume. That's important, because consumers often blame themselves. They say, "I must have overcooked it. I must have cooked it wrong. I should have marinated it longer." Sometimes the cooking method isn't the whole story. Verdict: caution. Private label can represent good value, but the label should be evaluated package by package. Report finding number 6. Tyson. Tyson is different. Here the issue isn't lack of information. It's whether consumers actually read the information that exists. USDA explains that poultry cooled in water chill tanks can absorb some of that water, and the agency says 8% to 12% retained water is not unusual on poultry labels. That gives us a straightforward consumer test. Find the retained water statement. Don't guess. Don't rely on the brand reputation. Read the package. If you see retained water, understand what that means. You're looking at a product that has absorbed water during the chilling process. That doesn't make it illegal. It doesn't make it automatically unsafe. And USDA explicitly regulates retained water in raw poultry. But it does make the product different from a chicken that was air-chilled. And that difference can matter to shoppers who care about cooking performance, water retention, and paying only for meat. There's another common misconception. The liquid inside a raw chicken package isn't necessarily blood. USDA explains that the pink liquid is mostly water absorbed during chilling. So if you've ever opened chicken and wondered why there's so much liquid in the tray, now you know what to investigate. Verdict: caution, not a safety condemnation. A label reading recommendation. Report finding number 5. Perdue. Perdue brings another lesson. Front of package claims can be accurate and still incomplete. Consider an antibiotic claim. If a product says, "No antibiotics ever," that tells you something about antibiotic use. It doesn't tell you everything else. It doesn't tell you whether the chicken was air-chilled. It doesn't automatically tell you the retained water level. It doesn't tell you whether the bird was pasture-raised. It doesn't tell you whether the product has been seasoned or enhanced. And it doesn't tell you the entire corporate history. This is the central lesson of the report. One claim is one claim. Don't turn it into a conclusion about the entire product. Read the rest. The current USDA system also distinguishes among different labeling and animal raising claims, with documentation requirements for claims relating to animal raising and environmental conditions. So when a package makes a strong claim, ask a second question. What exactly does this claim cover? That's how you avoid being misled without having to assume the company is lying. Verdict. Caution. The claim may be meaningful, but it isn't a complete product report. Report finding number 4, Foster Farms. The Foster Farms finding is different because we have a federal public health record. CDC investigated a multi-state outbreak of multi-drug-resistant Salmonella Heidelberg associated with Foster Farms brand chicken. The final CDC update reported 634 people infected in 29 states and Puerto Rico. That is the kind of evidence that belongs in a consumer report, not social media rumors, not anonymous comments, not someone told me. A CDC investigation. The investigation used epidemiologic, laboratory, and traceback evidence and identified Foster Farms chicken as the source of the outbreak. But here's the part where responsible reporting matters. That was a historical outbreak. It does not mean every Foster Farms package on today's shelf is contaminated. It does not mean the brand should be treated as though it is under a permanent recall. And it does not eliminate the need to handle every brand of raw chicken safely. The lesson is broader. When you buy raw poultry, you are buying a product category with known food safety risks. And brand history can add context. Verdict, caution. Documented historical food safety issue. Not a blanket claim about every current product. Report finding number 3, Pilgrim's Pride. Now the federal enforcement record becomes even more significant. In February 2021, the Department of Justice announced that Pilgrim's Pride pleaded guilty to criminal antitrust charges involving a conspiracy to suppress and eliminate competition for broiler chicken sales. According to DOJ, the conduct affected at least $361 million in Pilgrim sales. The company was sentenced to a criminal fine of $107,923,572. That number matters, because when consumers hear price fixing, it can sound abstract. A federal criminal fine makes it concrete. This wasn't simply a disagreement over marketing. It was a criminal antitrust case. And the reason it matters to consumers is simple. Food markets depend on competition. When companies illegally coordinate instead of competing, the consequences can reach beyond the boardroom. The investigation doesn't establish that every package of Pilgrim's chicken is unsafe. It doesn't. But it establishes that the company's corporate history includes a serious federal antitrust conviction. That's relevant information. Pilgrim's also operates across retail and prepared food channels, meaning consumers can encounter its products directly or through products made for other customers. The company describes itself as a major poultry and prepared food provider. Verdict, caution. Not because the chicken is automatically unsafe, because the corporate record is significant enough that consumers should know it. Report finding number 2, Supermarket Rotisserie Chicken. The second finding isn't really about one company. It's about a category. Rotisserie chicken. The perception is simple. Whole chicken. Already cooked. Therefore simple. But that's not always how the product is made. Depending on the retailer and formulation, rotisserie chicken can contain additional ingredients, such as water, salt, phosphates, starches, flavoring ingredients, and seasoning systems. And this is why the ingredient list matters. A whole bird can still be a formulated product. The shape of the food doesn't tell you the processing history. The same rule applies to deli meats, flavored meats, marinades, and seasoned poultry. If you want one ingredient, check the ingredient list. And there's another reason rotisserie chicken deserves attention. It's designed for convenience. The entire value proposition is that you don't have to cook the bird yourself. That means the processing and formulation are doing work on your behalf. Moisture retention, flavor, texture, shelf life considerations, heat lamp holding, those factors can influence the final product. Again, none of that automatically means the product is bad. It means you should know what you're buying. And don't assume Costco and Kroger have identical formulas. They don't necessarily. Products vary by retailer, supplier, market, and time. Check the package in front of you. Verdict, caution. Convenience is the selling point. Transparency comes from reading the label. This is exactly the kind of research we've built into what's really in your cart. The guide covers more than 100 grocery brands across 15 categories, so you can compare products before you buy them. The goal isn't to tell you what you're allowed to eat. The goal is to give you the information you need to make the decision yourself. The guide is in the description. Now let's continue. Report finding number 1. Wayne-Sanderson Farms. The final corporate finding involves one of the biggest structural changes in the list. Sanderson Farms no longer operates as an independent company in the way shoppers once knew it. In 2022, Cargill and Continental Grain completed the acquisition that combined Sanderson Farms and Wayne Farms into Wayne-Sanderson Farms. The new company brought together two major poultry operations. Industry reporting described the resulting company as the third largest poultry producer in the country. This is important because corporate consolidation can change the economics behind a familiar label. The name consumers remember may survive, the ownership structure may not, and Sanderson Farms also had a notable public dispute over antibiotic marketing. In 2016, Sanderson Farms launched a campaign challenging what it described as misleading marketing surrounding antibiotic-free chicken. Contemporary reports documented the campaign and the company's position. The important point isn't whether you agree with Sanderson Farms. The important point is that the company openly argued against the idea that antibiotic-free chicken should automatically command a premium. That gives shoppers another useful lesson. Marketing claims exist inside competitive markets. Companies don't necessarily agree on what consumers should value. So don't outsource your judgment to the marketing department. Read the label. And there's another documented corporate issue. The Justice Department filed a lawsuit involving Sanderson Farms and Wayne Farms and proposed provisions addressing grower contracts, payment practices, information disclosures, and retaliation concerns. Again, that's a lawsuit and proposed enforcement framework, not a criminal conviction. Say exactly what the record says. That distinction is what separates consumer reporting from sensationalism. Verdict, caution. The corporate history is significant. The consumer response is to investigate the specific product, not make assumptions about every package. 3 better documented options. Now the positive side of the report. 3 brands identified in the research stand out for clearer production and processing information. These are the 3 that can actually be evaluated from the material. 1. Smart Chicken. Smart Chicken's current product information says its chicken is USDA process verified as pure air chilled and without added water. Its organic products are described as certified organic and produced without antibiotics. That's useful because air chilling is a concrete processing distinction. It isn't a vague phrase like premium, it tells you how the bird was cooled. And for shoppers trying to avoid retained water from water chilling, that's directly relevant. Verdict, buy, if the specific product's current label matches your priorities. 2. Mary's. Mary's provides another differentiated option. The company says it has been family-owned and operated since 1954. Its current materials describe its free-range and organic lines, and its FAQ identifies free-range organic air-chilled chicken. But again, don't collapse all these claims into one word. Free-range isn't the same thing as pasture-raised. Organic isn't the same thing as free-range. Air-chilled isn't the same thing as organic. Each describes a different aspect of the product. That's the level of precision consumers need. Verdict, buy, particularly for shoppers seeking a more differentiated production system. 3. Bell & Evans. Bell & Evans provides perhaps the clearest processing example. The company's current website identifies its chicken as 100% air-chilled and raised without antibiotics. Its whole chicken product page says the bird has no retained water from chilling and connects that directly to its air-chilling process. That makes the claim easy to understand. No mystery, no complicated terminology. Air-chilled, no retained water from chilling, according to the company's product information. Then you can compare that with other packages. That's what consumer reporting should accomplish. It gives you a benchmark. Verdict, buy. For shoppers looking for air-chilled poultry and a clearly stated processing approach. The label report. Now here's the 5-second system. Pick up any chicken package. Ask 5 questions. Question 1. How was it chilled? Air? Water? Look for the information. USDA says water-chilled poultry can retain water and that the retained amount must be declared on applicable labels. Question 2. Is water retained? Don't assume. Read the statement. If the package says 8% retained water, that's information you should factor into the comparison. Question 3. What are the ingredients? Plain whole chicken should be simple. If you see salt, phosphate, starch, flavoring, or another ingredient, you're dealing with something beyond a plain untreated bird. That's not automatically bad. It simply changes the product. Question 4. What does the farming claim mean? Free range, organic, pasture, no antibiotics? Read each claim separately. USDA's current guidance requires documentation for certain animal raising and environmental claims. Question 5. Who actually made it? Look at the processor. Look at the establishment information when available. The supermarket logo isn't always the same thing as the company that raised or processed the bird. That's how you move from shopper to investigator. The white striping check. There's one more physical test. Look at the breast. If you see prominent white lines running along the muscle, you're looking at the visual characteristic researchers call white striping. Research has documented the condition extensively in modern broiler chickens. And if the meat feels unusually hard or rubbery, researchers have also studied woody breast as another quality problem affecting broiler breast muscle. Again, don't panic. Don't claim the meat is poisonous. Don't throw around medical claims. Just recognize the quality issue. And if you repeatedly encounter poor texture from a particular type of chicken, try another product. That's consumer power. The big takeaway, the poultry aisle isn't really divided into good chicken and bad chicken. It's divided into different production systems, different processing methods, different claims, different levels of transparency, and different prices. Once you understand that, the aisle becomes much easier to navigate. You don't have to hate Tyson. You don't have to love Bell & Evans. You don't have to stop buying store brands. You don't have to buy organic. You simply need to understand what you're paying for. That's the entire point. We've covered chicken today, but the same problem appears throughout the grocery store. That's why What's Really in Your Cart covers 15 grocery categories and more than 100 brands. The guide is designed to help you compare products, understand labels, and identify better alternatives before you spend your money. It's linked in the description. Now let's close the report. Final report. Here are the 3 biggest lessons. First, air-chilled is a processing distinction. It doesn't automatically make a product healthier, but it tells you the chicken was cooled differently from water-chilled poultry. Second, retained water is not a secret ingredient. USDA requires applicable raw poultry products to disclose retained water, and the agency says 8% to 12% isn't unusual. So read the statement. Third, marketing claims have boundaries. No antibiotics ever doesn't answer every question. Free range doesn't automatically mean pasture-raised. Organic doesn't automatically tell you how the chicken was chilled. And whole chicken doesn't automatically mean one ingredient. That's why the back of the package matters. Where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments below. And if you've ever opened a chicken package and wondered why there was so much liquid inside, tell us what brand it was. Final shopping checklist. Before buying, check the chilling method. Check retained water. Read the ingredient list. Check the raising claim. Look for certification or verification where relevant. Compare the processor, and then decide whether the price makes sense. That's it. You don't need to memorize every poultry company in America. You need to know what questions to ask. And once you know those questions, the grocery aisle changes. You stop seeing colorful packaging. You start seeing claims. You stop seeing premium. You start asking what premium actually means. You stop seeing natural. You start looking for the ingredient list. And you stop assuming that the most familiar brand is automatically the best choice. That's the real consumer advantage. Information. Before you go, if today's report opened your eyes, our ebook What's Really in Your Cart goes even deeper. It's a comprehensive ebook covering 100+ brands across 15 grocery categories, Every brand fully investigated and rated. Don't leave without grabbing it. The link is right there in the description. You've been watching Consumer Report. Subscribe for reports like this every single week. We investigate so you don't have to. The information in this video is based on publicly available information, ingredient research, regulatory records, and editorial commentary for educational purposes only. Product formulas may change. Always check current labels before purchasing. This channel does not provide medical or nutritional advice.